The day of reckoning in OWCS North America has arrived. Welcome to Stage 4, the final pit stop before we send 3 of these squads out to Sweden. To get there though, we've got to move the number from 16 down to 8. Welcome to the 4th and final group stage of this region, and today we're going to do a breakdown of all of the rosters, look at the groups themselves, and give some predictions as to which ones have the best chance of making it through. Let's get started. Here's the top 16 to make it to the next phase of the NA tournament. There's a lot of the same that you'd expect, a lot of the staples. A couple of them did make some changes to their rosters here and there that we'll address a bit later. But aside from that, it's mostly what you'd expect with a couple of random teams here and there as you usually get. I feel like this stage in particular is a bit more random than usual with some of the mixtures of players we're seeing on these rosters, but I don't know if it makes any kind of difference. Let's just dive straight into things, starting with Group A. So Group A is of course the Toronto group as usual, and for them this stage, it has nothing to do with the groups or even the early portions of the next round. It's honestly a long-term thing with this squad, because every single stage so far in NA, they've had at least one game where you question why it's so close. In Stage 1, it was that random 5-mapper against Timeless. In Stages 2 and 3, they lost games altogether. That is just unacceptable for this team. We know they're supposed to be way better than the rest of this region, and they need to show that to us. I need to see them lock in preparation for Sweden. I want to see a completely different Toronto team that is out for blood this stage. Otherwise, nobody's ever going to take them seriously. For now though, we can rest easy. It's going to be a meme fest until we get out of the groups. When it comes to who's joining Toronto, I feel like most people would lean towards Shikigami. They showed some notable improvements in Stage 3. They were damn close to making it through the groups and on to the next round and genuinely looking like a pretty solid NA team. And I think they're continuing to make some good improvements to their roster. They added in Aniyun for some extra depth of support. You see that Sun Jun is now on the team. I don't know how that works with the logistics and all, but he is there along with Taejong, an interesting looking DPS line that I'd put a lot of trust in. And what's interesting about Shikigami is their whole revamped coaching system, because for whatever the hell the reason, Fleta is coaching this team. He is one of the many coaches on Shikigami. I guess maybe because they have a couple of Korean players on there, but man, this is an anime crossover I was not expecting. And despite the changes to their roster and with the coaching staff, they managed to get 4th place in the Swiss stage, which is pretty impressive overall. I'm liking where this team is at, and I'd like to see them take the final step. They seem like good favorites to make it happen too, because compared to the other teams in this group, it seems like they have a notable advantage. Genuinely, I don't have all that much faith in either Tanuki Tapire, if that's even how you pronounce it, or YFP Gaming. Neither of them really stand out to me with the rosters they have, although I do find YFP interesting in particular because for whatever reason, Aid is on this team. You may recognize him. He used to be a staple in Korean contenders. He played on Sin Prisa Gaming. He's just on this team because why not? When it's all said and done though, this should be the Toronto Shikigami show. I don't think any of the other games will be all that close. It should just be those two, knowing their level of play overall. I'm hoping it happens for Shiki in particular because 1, again, Fleta coach, but 2, they've been waiting to make it this far for a while. They just got reverse swept by Citrus last stage, so this would be a nice little redemption arc of sorts as they finally crack the top 8. In Group B, we've got a couple of powerful teams over here with NRG Shock leading the way, as well as Fluffy Aimers being in the mix. Unfortunately, again, this just feels like a rather one-sided group with 2 noteworthy powerhouses. NRG are literally like the second best team in NA right now, almost without question, unless you think Nightmare still has a crack at them, which is definitely possible. Maybe we'll find out a bit later. But I'm excited to watch this team play, not just here in groups, but beyond, because they've had a bit more time to synergize with each other. They added in a lot of new players in Stage 3, and they've had another month to practice and get to know each other. So I'm expecting a more consistent product out of these guys this time, and I'm pumped to see what they can bring to the table. Now, if this was previous stages, maybe I'd say that second place spot is a bit more up for grabs, but Fluffy seems to have elevated themselves to a higher level. In stage 3, they managed to not only get the top place in their group over Citrus, beating them convincingly, but also they made it to the second round of the lower bracket and took a map off of Nightmare, which is no easy feat. This team's in a pretty great place. They essentially have the same roster as well, but they added in even more pieces to give them a lot more depth, especially at that DPS role. Obviously, they don't have the upper echelon of talent for North American standards, but it seems like they're maybe one tier below that, and that's pretty good compared to these other teams that are in this group as well. So I'd have a lot of confidence in them to make it through. I like the step that they took in stage 3, and I think they're going to run with it here, and they'll make it to the tournament once again alongside Toronto. My optimism for Fluffy or NRG to be challenged is extremely low right now. Unfortunately, the other teams in this group are just very unproven. They feel like a bunch of nobodies, so I feel like this should be a pretty boring group as well. Over in Group C, we have the Nightmare group. And this, my friends, is where I feel there could be the most variance in the potential results. Kind of like with NRG, I'm pretty excited to watch Nightmare get back out there. Now that they've had more time to synergize with each other, they'll probably clean up their play in the same light that NRG does. They're very competitive in Stage 3, taking Toronto the distance just like the Shock did. And I'm expecting to see more of the same results with the talents that they have. Who joins them out of this group is the bigger question to ask, though. In my opinion, all these teams have some pretty decent rosters on paper. Radx, Avidity, Ramatra Punch, and God help us all, ShouToA all have a good opportunity to capitalize. I'm going to start this off with ShouToA. I mean, first off, why? Why is this their name? It's absolutely insane. Internet culture is completely gone at this point. It's shot, but memes aside, I guess you could say, this team actually managed to get second place in the Swiss stage only behind TSM. And that's rather noteworthy, because if you recognize Romani, he only plays Junker Queen from what I understand. This team has one specific identity, one composition that they can realistically play, and they managed to get second. That is pretty eye-opening stuff there. And on top of it all, their roster, not only is it random and they only all came together, but you have people from all over the world. Korea, the US, Europe, it is everywhere and anywhere, and somehow they still managed to play that well, which makes me think they are a wild card of sorts, and maybe they're pretty damn good at the current meta. This team is a wild card. They remind me a lot of SR Peak Check over in EU, where it's just that one style. You wonder how the counterplay is going to play into effect, and playing things that maybe aren't as strong depending on the map. All of that could go into question and could possibly see this team crash and burn despite them having a great performance in the Swiss. If they want to make it through, they'll have to get past both Ramatra Punch and Avidity. Both of these teams feel drastically different to me. Ramatra Punch doesn't have a lot of crazy superstar level players on it, but they feel well balanced. Meanwhile, Avidity have a pretty crazy DPS line on paper with WUB and with Bun there. I love WUB. I'm a big fan of this guy. He seemed to play so much better after the Eternal days, and I'm hyped to see him back in action. He wasn't around for a bit, and it's cool to see him back. It just might make the most of this opportunity. He is a nasty player that does not get the appreciation that he deserves. Honestly, any of these teams can make it through, but I think for my prediction, alongside Nightmare, I will pick the crazy meme team. I'm going with ShouToA, as much as I don't want to because that name makes me cringe. I feel like this is a good meta setup for them. I've seen Junker Queen be played successfully with that Juno composition. They got second place for a reason, so that leads me to believe I should probably have at least some level of confidence in them. It would be the funniest thing ever if this team made it to a main tournament with that type of name that may be replaced by something else if Blizzard gets involved. So let's just go with them. Let's go with the funny meme team and Nightmare to make it through Group C. And then we finally have Group D, where once again, things feel a lot more one-sided, with Citrus Nation and TSM being in the same group. These two are a bit of a rival at this point. It seems like it usually goes in Citrus's favor. We just saw them play recently in the Stage 3 tournament where Citrus beat them rather convincingly. And I'm curious to see if TSM are ready to bounce back now that they've made changes and they've gone through a lot of tough matches. This team actually got reverse swept in the Faceit League NA finals, so I'm sure they're hungry to get back out there, perform well, and try and potentially punch their tickets to DreamHack Sweden, as they still are technically in the race. No offense to Absolution or Team Z, but we already know that Citrus and TSM are making it through this group without question. It's just a matter of who gets first and who gets second. And for me, I am picking Citrus to get first place. They've gone from Citrus Nation to Nightmare back to Nation again, and I think with their current iteration, they will look much improved compared to a very up and down Stage 3. And my main reasoning behind that is because they got help at both tank and support, which were places I felt they were struggling at times. Zeb wasn't always the most flexible player in the world, and they had to rely on just those random ball compositions to try and make it work if he couldn't go into the game. But now you pick up Kuffa, who has been a reliable tank in the NA scene for a while. Him and Timeless just won the Face It League Championship. He is a big boost that gives you a lot more versatility at the tank line, and I think he's going to help out this team a bunch, alongside Luke Mino, who could maybe make up for some of the lack of consistency at support that we have seen from time to time. In my opinion, at least on paper, without being able to watch them, this feels like the most balanced variant of Citrus that we have seen so far. And I think that they're a better team overall compared to TSM, who have just been so shaky. Every time these two play, Citrus always gets the upper hand against them, and I just don't know if that's going to change. I just don't know if it is possible, especially when TSM continue to change their roster over and over again, hoping to just throw something at the wall and see it stick. They're in danger of seeing their ticket to Sweden go to somebody else, and to try and make up for that difference, to try and get back into the race, we saw them let go of Chopper, who has been on this team since Stage 1, and in return, they're bringing in Vision to replace him, who is another great hit scan DPS prospect in NA, and the support line is changing up yet again. God is Renko and Lep, and in comes Lyre and Squid. And I mean, just to make things even more confusing, they go from having Icy and Riker to just Icy, now to just Riker. They feel very disorganized, all over the place, panicky almost, and that doesn't bode well when time is running out for you and you need to perform. Like, this is it. There's no more time to waste. This is your final opportunity. And with all that pressure, I'm a bit worried it's going to get to them. It is worth noting, at least for some kind of optimism though, that they did go 10-0 in the Swiss stage. They didn't have to play any of the big four, but nonetheless, 10-0 is 10-0, and they did make the Face It League final, which is somewhat impressive too. This team does have the talent to make it happen. It's just a matter of the execution at this point. And the first step is going to be getting past Citrus. If they can do that, there could be reason to feel confident in this team once again. But at the minimum, here in the groups, I don't think it's going to happen. I need to see it with my own eyes first. This rivalry has been extremely one-sided, and I think Citrus just got a lot better, so they're going to have to be on their A game if they want to take them down and get first place in this group. And that basically wraps up my thought process on the NA Stage 4 groups. Overall feels pretty cut and dry, but there's just something so strange and funny about it compared to like EU. It feels so much more random and chaotic. Outside of the top dogs, you have random teams with just the most random people from all over the world. You have Fleta coaching in NA because why not? You have somebody taking after the Hawk Tua meme. It's just absolute chaos in this region. It is a joke. Nobody cares, and I'm excited to finally get through it and move on and not have to cover it anymore. As always, I encourage you to continue the conversation down in the comments below. Let me know what you think of this group stage and if there could be any surprise performers. Make sure to like this video and hit the sub button as well if you enjoy my content and you want to stay up to date with all of the most recent OWCS tournaments. And until the next one, I'm out. Peace.